Today, we are diving into a chapter of scientific history that honestly is way too often overlooked. We're talking about a time when the very foundations of modern biology and medicine were being laid down, not in Renaissance Europe, but centuries earlier, in the Islamic world.
Okay, let me start by asking you a question. Picture the single most influential medical textbook in all of history. A book so complete, so authoritative, that it was the go-to guide for doctors everywhere, from Asia to Europe, for more than 600 years. Any idea who wrote it?
Well, that author was a man named Ibn Sina, or Avicenna as he was known in the West. His masterpiece, The Canon of Medicine, was an absolute game-changer. Why? Because it systematically organized pretty much all known medical knowledge of the time, from ancient Greek theories to his own sharp clinical observations. But here's the kicker. Ibn Sina wasn't some lone genius. He was a leading light in a massive and often forgotten scientific revolution, the Islamic Golden Age.
Now, this period, which stretched from about the 8th to the 15th century, was about so much more than just discovering new things. It was a time when the very idea of what science is was being completely redefined.
To really get it, let's put it on a timeline. You had the ancient Greeks, right? Brilliant thinkers that gave us all this incredible philosophy and theory. But it was the scientists of the Islamic Golden Age who took those ideas off the page and into the real world. They put them to the test, creating the experimental foundations that the European Renaissance would later build upon.
And that was the crucial shift. Science went from being a philosophical debate, something you just thought about, to a hands-on, practical discipline. It became all about careful observation, about experiments you could repeat, and about proving what you claimed with actual evidence. This, right here, was the birth of the scientific method as we know it.
And the people who were driving this change? They were the original polymaths, absolute masters of multiple fields, who saw the world as this deeply interconnected puzzle. They didn't just stick to one thing. They were busy laying the groundwork for entire fields of study.
Just take a look at these early masters, people like Jabir Bin Hayan and Al-Farabi. These guys weren't just dabbling. They were creating the very first systematic catalogs of the natural world. Before them, a lot of knowledge about plants and animals was all mixed up with folklore and superstition. Their books on botany and zoology were some of the first serious attempts to classify and understand life based on what you could actually see.
This new, systematic way of thinking was especially huge for the study of animals. It helped transform zoology from a world of myths and monsters into one based on careful, scientific observation.
And if one person truly represents the shift, it has to be Abdul Malik Asmai. While a lot of his peers were generalists, Asmai was one of the first true specialists, dedicating his entire life to the detailed study of animals.
I mean, just look at this level of focus. He didn't just write a vague book on animals. No, he wrote the definitive guide to horses. Then he did the same for camels and for sheep. He even wrote one of the earliest detailed works on human anatomy. This kind of specialization was totally new, and it was the very beginning of systematic zoology.
Then you have thinkers like Al-Jahiz, who took it a step further. He wasn't just describing animals, he was studying their behavior. We're talking about things like observing fish migration patterns and documenting the complex social structures of ant colonies. He was basically an early ethologist, a student of animal behavior, centuries ahead of his time.
But, perhaps the most dramatic leaps forward happened in human medicine. And this wasn't just about adding new knowledge. It was about having the courage to look at the respected ancient authorities and say, you know what, you got this wrong.
This is a perfect example. For centuries, the Greek theory of vision was that our eyes worked like little flashlights, sending out rays to see things. It's a neat idea, but it's completely backward. It was Ibn al-Haytham who, through experiments, proved the opposite. Light actually enters the eye, and the retina is where vision begins. He literally changed how we see the world. And this new correct understanding of the eye led to an explosion in practical medicine. The eye specialist Ali Ben Isa identified and cataloged 130 different diseases of the eye. 130! He created this comprehensive roadmap for ophthalmology that was used for generations.
And progress wasn't just in theory. Surgeons like Abdul Qasim Ali-Zahrawi were true pioneers in the operating room. He perfected incredibly difficult procedures, like removing stones from the bladder, a life-saving operation that required unimaginable skill and anatomical knowledge in an era before modern anesthesia or antiseptics. But maybe the single most mind-blowing medical discovery from this time is this one. For over 1,000 years, everyone believed that blood flowed between the heart's chambers through invisible pores. It was Ibn al-Nafis back in the 13th century who first correctly described pulmonary circulation, how blood travels from the heart to the lungs to get oxygen, then back to the heart to be pumped to the rest of the body. He figured this out 300 years before it was rediscovered in Europe.
So, why does any of this matter today? Well, because these weren't just a handful of isolated discoveries. They represent a fundamental shift in how humans approach knowledge, a shift that built the very foundations of modern science. When you really look at modern science, you can see the echoes of this golden age everywhere. The very idea of testing a hypothesis, that comes from them. Our understanding of vision and blood flow started right here. The systematic study of the animal kingdom, and even many of the techniques used in modern surgery, all have deep, clear roots in the work of these pioneers.
Their story is such a powerful reminder that human brilliance isn't confined to one culture or one era. And it leaves you with a really fascinating question. What other incredible chapters of history are just hiding out there in plain sight, waiting for us to rediscover them?